Hi, my name is Finn, and I am chronically ill. Let's talk about it. I initially started this channel with the intent of recording myself in the outdoors, exploring the places I love, finding new critters, new plants, but life is kind of throwing me a curveball. So I'm going to try to post those when I can, but I'd also like to share my story to raise awareness about my conditions and hopefully make other people feel less alone that are going through something similar. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. I am just a patient. This is what I have gathered from, my own experiences as well as various parts of the literature, various books that I have read. I have a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS. That is an inherited connective tissue disease. Essentially, the tissues that are supposed to keep your body connected, like your organs, your skin, they're structured incorrectly. So everything is especially stretchy or especially lax. You can see it in my skin, like on my hand or on my face. There are several different subtypes of EDS, and I most likely have the hypermobile type, so hEDS, but I'm waiting on genetic testing, and there is no technical gene to test for. It's a diagnosis of exclusion. You're excluding other connective tissue diseases and you're excluding other types of EDS. hEDS has a heterogeneous presentation. In simpler terms, basically every patient presents in a different way. So for me, I mostly deal with joint instability and musculoskeletal pains associated with joint instability or other conditions that hEDS causes. Things like my shoulder goes out all the time, not fully. It's called a subluxation, so a partial dislocation. And EDS in general is generally regarded as one of the most painful conditions that a person can have. hEDS is not technically a progressive disease, but as you get more and more injuries and as you age, these injuries pile up. So say I sprained my shoulder a year ago, it hasn't gone back because of poor wound healing. So my ligament stretched and it stayed stretched. So now that shoulder is looser. And with all these subluxations and sprains and strains, it just keeps building and keeps building until your joints are getting progressively worse. There is no cure for hEDS or any of the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes. Treatment is basically easing symptoms, mainly with physical therapy to help strengthen the muscles that hold the joints together. It's a lot of, and then you have to take it really slow. I used to do weight training in high school, and they pretty much tell you, hey, no stretching, you can't put that much weight on your muscles, your joints, because it will just likely lead to injury. I also have a condition called POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a mouthful. It's a form of dysautonomia, which means the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is in control of the automatic body processes, so breathing, heart rate. POTS for me, dysautonomia for me, means that when I'm upright, so say I'm sitting or I'm standing like I am right now, typically when you change positions into an upright position, your blood vessels are supposed to constrict a little bit to help support blood flow to your brain, because you're working against gravity. In my body, my blood vessels are more lax, so they do not constrict tight enough, which means that not enough oxygen is getting to my brain. In order to compensate for this, my heart rate goes up, and it causes symptoms like dizziness, inappropriate heat flashes. I'm not going through menopause. brain fog, which is like difficulty thinking, kind of like you had fog in your brain, pretty cloudy up there. It's why I tend to get off topic or not be able to think of words. POTS is commonly associated with hEDS, likely because of the blood vessels being composed of that incorrectly structured connective tissue. In a future video, I am going to discuss the treatments I've tried and other possible treatments for POTS. There is no cure for any of the conditions that I have, but there are ways to make it easier to live with. Some people with POTS experience syncope. Personally, I mostly get pre-syncope, which is basically how you feel right before you pass out, if you've ever passed out. So that sweating, hot, vision goes away, nausea. So that's usually the time that I hit the floor wherever I'm at to make sure I don't fully pass out. I rarely pass out, but still very symptomatic. Another condition that commonly occurs with POTS and hEDS is allergies, specifically mast cell activation syndrome, or MCAS. Now, I haven't been diagnosed with MCAS. Treatment is the same regardless of diagnosis or not. So we haven't really pursued proper testing because of how it can be really faulty, very sensitive, and the diagnosis may be inaccurate. I'm not about to get a tissue biopsy without needing it really for treatment. Basically, I have severe allergies and have react to more things than my body is supposed to. So I'm allergic to a lot of materials, environmental stuff like dust, tree pollen. I have some food allergies. It's caused oral allergy syndrome, or OAS, also known as pollen food allergy syndrome, or PFAS. Essentially, tree pollen gets on fruits or vegetables when they're growing and cross-contaminates them, so I'm not allowed to eat raw fruits or veggies. These allergies are somewhat connected with intolerances, which aren't true food allergies. So intolerances aren't true food allergies in that they don't elicit the same immune response. I personally have intolerances to gluten, fructose, and histamine, which all produce different symptoms. It's probably connected to something called leaky gut syndrome. Essentially, the epithelial lining of your intestines, or the tissues, the cells, are supposed to be like this, tight, so they don't let anything go through them when there's food in your tummy. But mine are like this, so they let little particulates and whatever you consume into the, what is it called, the immune system that's behind your gut, and causes inflammatory responses all over your body. Not too much research has gone into these conditions, especially how they all connect. There's a lot of speculation about if one causes the other. It seems like they all just contribute to each other. My mom calls it a vortex. So basically you get more symptomatic in one area, you get more symptomatic in the other, and then it all just goes in a circle. I will also leave some resources down in the description about the Ehlers-Danlos Society, Dysautonomia International, other resources that can be helpful in learning more information. This was definitely just a throw a bunch of information at you to kind of explain the different conditions that I'm going to make future videos about, such as the treatments I've had, what it was like to grow up with chronic illness when you didn't know you had it, things like that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Peace out.